Hi, I'm Phil Myers, and this is Tips for Bible Teachers. When I was a missionary in Indonesia, I went on a community bike ride. There were, I'm going to guess, 100 people on bicycles, kids and parents and neighbors and anybody who wanted to show up. And I stuck in my pocket a heaven test like this, only I had written it in Indonesian language so that I could pass it out. And this says, am I going to heaven? On the front page. On the inside it says, heaven test. Be good, go to church, be baptized, be as good as you can be, always be kind and obey. Well, I kind of changed that be baptized into a Muslim sounding thing because most people in Indonesia are Muslims, either good Muslims, bad Muslims. But then it has the answer, and it has Bible verses written in it. And as we traveled, I stuck them in my pocket and put them in my pants pocket as well. And I would ask kids riding next to me, I said, have you ever taken a heaven test? Well, of course, they had never taken a heaven test. And so I said, would you like one? And I would pass one. And the kid says, what's that? And the next, I said, well, give that one to him, and I'll give you another one. And then there were kids on this side who wanted them, and I got rid of 50 heaven tests on this little jaunt that we were taking. Well, the way I teach kids, I teach junior church. I teach men and I teach Bible college, and you know, I just love teaching. But in my junior church, this is how I teach kids how to give out a heaven test and how to explain the gospel. We have two chairs, one here and one here. I sit in one, and I said, who would like to do Hey Kid? They already know the drill, so it's not a strange question to them. And somebody would volunteer, and I would say, okay, I'll do it first, and then you can do it after me, okay? Hey kid, have you ever taken a heaven test? Say no. And he says no, or she. Here's a heaven test. And they open it up, and I said, now which of those things on that list do you think you have to do to get to heaven? Be good, go to church, be baptized, be as good as you can be, always be kind and obey. Pick out one. And so he plays as though he's an unsaved kid, and he picks one of the things on there. And then I say, sorry, you flunked the heaven test. And he acts all surprised. And I said, okay, now let's read this. And I'll read the first part, and then you can read the next line, and I'll read the next line, and you read the next line. And then the next one is a Bible verse, John 3:16, and we'll read that one together, okay? And then all you do is read that, do the same thing, and read all the way through it when you're talking to a friend or a new friend. And this is what it says. And so I read the first part. None of these things will get a person to heaven. The answer to that is that you have to be perfect and to deserve to live in heaven. I'm not that good. No one, and then he reads, or she, no one can live good enough to belong in heaven. And I read the next part. Everyone has sinned. God says that there's a punishment for our sin. It's being separated from him in hell forever. And he reads the next part. But Jesus Christ loves us, and he died on the cross to take our punishment. And then we read John 3:16 together. For God so loved the world, and this is a very, very good verse to explain salvation to grandparents, to uncles, to kids, to little people, big people, people who are any religion at all. I've even read this, given this to a test to an atheist. And I said, no, if you were an atheist, since you're an atheist, if there were a God, big if there were a God, what kind of people do you think God would take to heaven, if there were a heaven? Every atheist I've ever asked that question to says, well, of course God takes the good ones. And I'm thinking, what kind of answer is that? That sounds strange to hear it from an atheist. But anyway, so then I tell them, I leave it there. I said, okay, now I stand up and I leave. I give the heaven test to the kid I was just talking to, and he sits in my chair, and then somebody else comes up and sits in the chair. And we go through it about 2 or 3 times, just so that they get a feeling of learning how to give out a tract that salvation is explained very clearly in the tract to a child. My kids in my junior church have passed out, over the years, thousands of heaven tracts. Many of the times not even talking to the person except, would you take this, or please read this, or something like that. Sometimes they just leave them on the shelf at the grocery store. Sometimes they leave it in a doctor's office. People without Jesus Christ are lost, really lost. If somebody hadn't taken the time to tell me, I've never had anybody. No, that's not quite true. I can only remember one person who had no idea who I was, a total stranger, say, "Do you know where you're going when you die, mister?" And I didn't give an answer good enough for him, and he said, "Do you know where you're going when you die?" And I said, "Yes." And then he asked me, "Okay, how?" He wanted to make sure that I knew. But other than that, since that first person told me about Jesus Christ, I can't think of another person who wanted me to be saved. That's exciting. People need to hear the Lord, hear about the Lord. They need to know. And you and I are God's tools. Well, you figure out how to do the Hey Kid with an adult Sunday school class. Tell them how you pass out tracts, or how you open conversation. Maybe you don't use a tract. See all these dark spots on there? Those are all Bible verses. And I like to hand Bible verses to somebody so that they know this isn't just a guy I met who wants me to go to heaven. This is a Bible verse from the Bible, right from God's mouth. And so that's the reason I always leave a tract with somebody, and I always carry three of those tracts folded up in my wallet so that I can open a conversation anytime, any place. Have a good day, and think of somebody who needs to hear about Jesus Christ and his death on the cross for you. Your mechanic. Have a good day. Bye-bye.